Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drake Wayne Gaming and something on Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming at you with a new mini episode of Temptation's Ballad, the Sheriff and the Rascal. So y'all, let's go ahead and jump right in, shall we? Alarm Chan, you were up and let's go. Alrighty. Wes liked to imagine the glass is half full. He really tried his best, but positive thinking can only hold for so long when yet another church knight laughed in his face while he's trying to do his goddamn job. Tonight was an absolute mess for the City Watch. Hordes of people came in with reports of an obliterated underground fighting ring, missing gemstones, strange fainting spells, and most importantly, sightings of a suspicious hyena prowling the streets of Rotten Red's alley. Wes, of course, immediately recognized the stench of trouble and was ready to lead the City Watch into those damn streets to bring down the full might of the law. His enthusiasm quickly deflated when a small platoon of heavily armed church knights snorted at his merry band and told him to go home. Oh, the nerve of you! Who do you think you are? I'm the Sheriff of Axia, head of the City Watch. If a crime has been committed in my jurisdiction, it's my duty to set it right. The church knight smiled patiently, as though he was humoring a tantruming child. Ah, the City Watch. Listen here, little one. The reports say this ring is a playground for some of the strongest underground fighters in the city. And today they were bested by a powerful mage of unknown necrotic origins. I have under my command over a dozen magically trained paladins with years of experience combating the dark arts, and you have 5 men armed with lassos and crossbows. The knight laughed and patted Wes on the head, nearly knocking over his hat. Wes wanted to deck him in the teeth. Why don't you scurry home and let the grown-ups take care of this? I'm sure in the meantime there's paperwork or a small robbery to occupy your time. Before Wes could tell him to eat shit and die, the knight was already leading his troops down Rotten Red's alley without sparing him a glance. Watch your damn mouth! I ain't taking this lying down! He charged after the retreating knight and aimed a furious kick to his armored backside. His toes connected with the metal and a sound unfit for a grown man squealed from his throat. The knight did not even react and continued marching with a smug little smirk on his face. As Wes crumpled to the ground, clutching his tender digits, his fellow city watchguard shuffled up behind him awkwardly. Hate to say it, boss, but I think this one's out of our hands. How can you just give up so easily? Have a little self-respect. We are the City Watch, and in the name of my father, the great sheriff before me, I'm gonna fucking do my part to make this city a better place. Yeah, we know, you say that every day. But, you gotta admit, that knight isn't wrong. We mostly just do paperwork and solve petty crimes. I'm just saying, evil mind control wizards and underground fighters might just be a tiny smidge out of our league. The rest of his tiny band of guards nodded mournfully in agreement. Oh, for the love of... Ain't there a single ounce of pride among you? I mean, when was the last time the City Watch was hired for anything serious? The biggest job we had this week was helping an old lady find her lost purse, and maybe helping a directionally challenged kid back to his parents at the market. Most people are just hiring adventurers like that Bonebreaker Guild for big jobs anyway. Wes felt a blood vessel in his temple pop as he sucked in a sharp breath of air. The other City Watch guards gulped and immediately took a step back. Out! Out! All of you! All of you out! Fine! Go crawling back to the City Watch offices, you useless layabouts! Who even needs you anyway? His tiny crew took the hint and fled as fast as their little legs could carry them. Wes stood alone on the streets of Rotten Red's alley, huffing and puffing in a rage-fueled frenzy. Useless buggers, the lot of them. Spouting nonsense without a speck of truth. He was the goddamn sheriff of the City Watch, and he was gonna carry that burden alone if he had to. Just you fucking watch. Wes spent another 2 hours trying to sneak into the crime scene, and each time he was rebuked and thrown out with all the dignity of a misbehaving child. Eventually, even he had to admit defeat and return to his cold office with his tail tucked between his legs. Wes collapsed into his chair and stared at the small portrait of his father on his desk. The last City Watch sheriff, the man who inspired him to become what he is today. This wasn't quite what he imagined when he swore to follow in his father's footsteps. The frozen grin of his father's painted face stared back at him. What would he think if he saw his son today? Disappointed? Furious? Wes supposed his dad was in no position to complain. The man fruitlessly chased after Marrow Bonebreaker for most of his career, but was thwarted in every attempted arrest. Now, Marrow Bonebreaker was a celebrated hero, and his father was mocked into an early retirement. Wes sighed. His hat tipped back on his head as he stared up at the ceiling, unable to meet his father's gaze. This was the man he chased after his entire life, without a second thought. A man who was never home. A man who died in shame. And here Wes was, sitting in his father's chair with his hat and badge. He wondered if this was all a big mistake. A sharp knock at his door jolted him out of his stupor. What is it? Are those church buggers finally letting us do our jobs? The guard poked his head into the office and scratched his head awkwardly. No. You might want to take a look at this, though. We received complaints of a drunkard stumbling about and causing trouble in the market district, so we sent some men to bring him in. Wes deflated and sank back in his chair. Oh? That's it? You don't need me for this. Just shove the rascal into a holding cell and wait for him to sober up. Well, you sure you don't want to handle this yourself? It's your, Wes groaned and rubbed his temples. Listen here, son. I've had a long, irritating day and a small mountain of paperwork to drown myself in. Unless you got something that'll make me the happiest man in Axia, I don't want to hear it. A muffled thud echoed from downstairs as someone was dragged through the front doors of the city watch office. Watch where you put your hands, handsome. Things could get real messy real quick. Wes immediately leapt to his feet. Is that the bone breaker boy? Finally, I got you right where you belong. You thought you could escape my clutches today, but the city watch ain't so easily thwarted. Just you watch. He stormed out of his office and raced down the stairs, a righteous grin growing wide across his face. Behind him, the guard let out a quiet, knowing chuckle. Huh, knew that would cheer him up. Kalladai Bonebreaker was a menace to society, a rock in his metaphorical shoe, and an utter pain in the ass. Wes did not feel any fondness as he stormed down the City Watch holding cells. That was just righteous satisfaction. He felt it every time he managed to arrest the damn rascal. Kalladai Bonebreaker was a little shit, and he felt great joy in putting him in his place. Wes was not sure what he felt when he found Kalladai in a drunken, half-crying mess on the prison floor. There was a loopy grin on the Bonebreaker boy's tear-streaked face as he took a swig from a bottle that he absolutely should not have in his cell. Oh, if it isn't my favorite guy in the City Watch. How are you doing, Sheriff? You look like shit. Kalladai raised his bottle with a drunken laugh. Feel like one, too. Just on my way to my favorite bar in Rotten Red's Alley when your boys snatched me off the street. I was looking forward to a fun night, too. Rotten Reds. Were you part of the mess there this evening? Of course I was. Menace to society, Kalladai Bonebreaker, at your service. The hyena laughed bitterly and took another swig of his drink. Wes growled and snatched the bottle out of his hands through the prison bars. Who let you keep your drink in the cell? The fuck? Without missing a beat, Kalladai reached into his loincloth and pulled out a second bottle. Want a sip? Got plenty more where that came from. The rascal kept grinning and giggling despite his damp eyes. Wes frowned and leaned closer, squinting through the dark prison cell. What's got your knickers in a twist today? You haven't argued or you tried to escape or anything yet. And, you're a troublemaker, but drunken, disorderly conduct ain't your usual style. Kalladai gnawed on the lip of his bottle, his smile faltering slightly. Didn't want to think. About? A hyena frowned. Before Wes could protest, Kalladai began stubbornly downing his drink. He gulped about half of it before the bottle slipped from his clumsy fingers and spilled all over the stone floor. Fuck. Okay, I might have lied. That was my last bottle. Wes watched as Kalladai stumbled to the door of his jail cell. The hyena rummaged through his loincloth and pulled out a set of lockpicks. With an irritated grumble, he fiddled with his cell lock through shaky fingers. We replaced the locks with one of them newfangled, complicated ones. You ain't getting through that with regular lockpicks, Kalladai. The hyena scowled as he struggled to keep his hand steady. I used to be good at this, you know. If I had my old Tinker's kit, this thing would be open in a snap. It was a good kit, too. A real artificer's toolbox. Too bad I left it at my ex's place before we broke up. Wes raised an eyebrow and tried his best to not look curious. Huh. Never seemed like the dating type. Kalladai flashed him a bitter grin. I'm not. He was my first and last. He was a good man. Was a big-shot blacksmith in Craftsman Square. A real big future ahead of him. Kalladai seemed to have given up on the delicate art of lockpicking and elected to stab the keyhole impatiently instead. Too bad he met me, huh? Menace to society, Kalladai Bonebreaker at it again. Fucked up. He lost his job and his future. Ended up as a black market peddler to keep food on the table. But he was good at it, though. He made a decent name for himself. He would set up a pretty nifty underground fighting ring. Wes blinked. Wait, you talking about the underground ring that blew up today? Holiday let out a humorless chuckle. Yep, that's the one. I haven't seen him in years, and the first thing I do is ruin it. Ruin his life again. Man, I'm on a roll, aren't I? His lockpicks clattered onto the stone floor as he pressed his head against the cell in a defeated slump. Holiday grumbled and reached through the bars for the bottle in Wes's grip. Wes frowned and smacked his hand out of the air. He said he missed me. What fucked up is that? Wes stared at the crestfallen hyena quietly. You know, drunk and disorderly conduct is a pretty minor offense. We probably don't need to keep you in here overnight. He clicked open the cell lock. Holiday let out a yelp and fell forward as the door swung open. Wes grabbed the little hyena before he hit the floor and held up upright. The rascal was terribly light. He let out a grunt as he gingerly proceeded to bridle carry Holiday to the City Watch dungeons. Holiday squirmed in his grip and blinked, barely coherent. What? Where are we going? A jail cell probably ain't the best place to nurse a hangover. I've got a cot in my office and water if you need it. I'm fine. You ain't walking home in this state, let me tell you. Unless you want me to send word to your father. Holiday snapped his mouth shut with a grimace. Ugh, fine. I didn't think you'd be so desperate to get me in bed. Wes felt the hyena wriggle his hips suggestively in his grip. The waistband of his loincloth hanging dangerously low. He gulped as a flash of heat spread across his face. This ain't the time or place, Holiday. You know, I knew there was a reason why you kept chasing after me. You enjoy the view back there? Ugh! One time I tried to do something nice. This hyena was going to be the death of him. I don't think he minds that, though. Alright, y'all, I'm actually going to pause it right there, and we will continue this in the next video. Oh boy, this is probably going to get spicy. Alright, thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!